Good morning. So today I woke up with the inspiration to finally go back to the draft of my novel, and it's been a pain to admit that it's sitting and collecting metaphorical dust since about January. I've noticed I've been in this habit to manically write during the colder months and then completely abandon my projects during summer, and that's happened again this year. Today I'll be conquering my procrastination and taking on the writing routine of Ernest Hemingway, who has quite the opposite of my writing routine, as mine is completely void. He was very methodical and structured with the way that he chose to write, with word counts that he would keep track of daily, and I think that would very much serve me to be on track as much as he was. Making videos about the books that I love feels like this beautiful but chaotic tunnel vision in consuming books and then making content about them, but it's also kind of become a way to tell myself that all of my reading is research for my own novel, and that the more I read, the more I'm prepared to write the best novel that I could. And I think I'm just realizing how avoidant that sounds. As someone who truly loves to write, that's a bit odd. Regardless, today I will be seeing if Hemingway's writing routine might stick, and to give a little context about him, I would say he was one of the great American writers of the 20th century. He wrote books like The Sun Also Rises, A Farewell to Arms, and my favorite, A Movable Feast, in which my favorite portions of the novel detail his friendship with F. Scott Fitzgerald, and how many of times, if not most, they would clash because their outlooks on how to live life and write were so wildly different from the other. Hemingway was a multifaceted man, and I think that's what drew me to his writing. He was a war correspondent and a fisherman and a very well-traveled man, so he really got to experience a lot about life and then write about those experiences in a way that I feel like his books were very much not biographical completely, but they definitely pulled from his real life experiences. He also reminds me that it is possible to get enough inspiration right where I am without having to travel to faraway places, as I live in the town that he grew up in. So today I'm taking you on a little adventure through the streets of Oak Park to visit his childhood home that has been turned into a museum and preserved as it would have looked like when he lived there. I also thought you might enjoy taking a peek at the Ernest Hemingway archive that we have here at my local library, where some of his original letters and even high school essays are stored here. I think with the context of experiencing a bit of what his life might have been like back then, it'll be easier to fall into his writing routine a bit later. But I guess we shall see. Also, before I head out, I do want to talk to you about a class that I've been taking that has gotten me out of my creative writer's block, and that is a creative writing bootcamp led by instructor and novelist Mila Goldberg. You can find this class on Skillshare, who is also the sponsor of this video. If you haven't been acquainted yet, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes spanning topics on practically everything under the sun, or at least it feels like that, as someone who's been a member for years now. Skillshare has classes spanning topics from art and design and photography to filmmaking and music production, and many more creative topics through thousands of courses, and that of course includes the writing course I've been taking. Their classes are taught by professionals in their craft, whether that be in writing or crafting or other career building skills that you may be looking to level up in. In my experience, writer's block tends to happen when I'm very laser focused on my story that I don't even see my own surroundings, and the instructor for this course says perhaps we should see the world like a very small child or a tourist, and that way you kind of are seeing your surroundings with fresh eyes, even if those environments are ones that you've seen thousands of times. All to say, I highly recommend Skillshare. It's very much worth it, and if you haven't yet, you can try it for free, as the first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a free 1-month trial to Skillshare. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's head over to the Hemingway Archive and Museum.
This is a photographic reproduction. Electricity. This is a ritual. It's a little toast. Pieces of bread in there, a picture like this. A gas fireplace. And you have a beautiful year and a half older. Here's this little writing assignment. Miller Hemingway. I was born.
Hi, I'm back, and I learned so much, a lot more than I think I expected, considering I just watched this 3-part, 6-hour-long Ken Burns documentary on Hemingway's life, and it was silly of me to think that that made me the expert. When I visited the Special Collections reading room, I met Kathleen, who is the archivist of the collection, and she was very kind enough to have me handle some of the essays Hemingway wrote during high school. And in one of them, he talks about his field trip to the Field Museum in downtown Chicago. That one being my favorite, as it's as if it could have easily been written by somebody or a student today. You can see his writing style already being quite distinct in these papers. They're very direct and to the point, but you can also feel zoned in to the sensory parts of the moments that he's retelling. He also wasn't given the highest grades and didn't attend college that I previously thought that he might have. I later learned that instead he went on to work as a journalist straight after high school, where the structure of writing news, of course, must be very clear. He wrote for the Kansas City Star and learned what they called the Star copy style, which was essentially a style sheet for crisp and clear, immediate reporting. And they put this big emphasis on using short sentences and very specific rules, like not using adjectives and making sure that the first paragraph is always very short. These formative journalistic writings definitely played a huge role in what later informed his writing style. And although I'm not a journalist, I too understand this structure as I work for the local newspaper. So I truly was surprised to find much in common with our early careers. I think my visit to the Hemingway Museum, which is also the home that he was born in and lived in until the age of 6, was the most wholesome thing. Because as some of you may know, his adulthood was questionable at best, and he's definitely a polarizing character. But I liked staying in this little bubble of his early years and learning about the creativity and light that surrounded him before he fell into a lot of the struggles and troubles that he later faces. But I think now it's about the time where I think I'll wrap up for today. I'll be trying out Hemingway's writing routine tomorrow morning, which you will see in the following clip. But I will have the routine up on screen here that I've gathered is the closest that he would have followed in his day-to-day. But essentially, he would wake up quite early, as soon as he could after sunrise, before the demands of the day would catch up with him. But then he would also have a habit of stopping where he knew he could write more. Almost like creating tension of a cliffhanger feeling for himself, except he does know what happens next. But he lets it linger for the next day. I thought this was so interesting because it's like a way to ensure that you never face writer's block again or that scary blank page. Probably my personal favorite is his habit of having a word count tracker for each day. He felt this was necessary so as not to feel like he had this guilty conscience for the rest of the day for not writing enough. In his eyes, once a certain word count he deemed acceptable was reached, he could enjoy the rest of the day out fishing with no guilt. I feel like I'm the same way with my art, whether the task at hand is a painting or digital art. I never really feel like I'm getting enough done, and I get into this same mindset where whatever I do has to be quote-unquote productive or else I'm not going to do it. But maybe implementing this was the key that I was looking for. And then the final point I'll be implementing is to rewrite your drafts. I'm in the draft stage right now, so that works out perfectly. But I can tell you I won't be as deliberate as Hemingway was. When asked by a reporter for the Paris Review in 1958, he talks about rewriting the ending for Farewell at Arms, just the very last page of it though, 39 times. If even a small percentage of his perfectionism rubs off on me, I think that this experience has been more than worth it. Anyways, before I get into actually writing, I'm realizing you have zero context on the book that I'm drafting, even though right now it exists as hundreds of pages of scrapped together quotes and scenes and an outline of rewrites. But what I can tell you is it's set in the early 2000s, somewhere around 2003 to 2006, and it's about a woman in her late 20s who joins this mysterious art collective made up of other artists from many backgrounds, from film and mural making and dance and performance. But these artists are so wrapped up in their own personal struggles and their crazy ambitions in their craft that they believe extreme actions are necessary for artistic greatness. And therefore, you kind of see this unraveling of these characters as they become the very establishment of the art world that they sought to disrupt. It's about the cycle artists feel that they're stuck in to perform rather than to create. I kind of feel like the early 2000s were a turning point for art and media, where reality TV was very popular and tabloid culture really shaped the public perception of creative people. So this storyline kind of follows this woman in a struggle to not self-mythologize herself as an artist. That might be over-explaining something so early stages, but hopefully it's piqued some interest, and I'd love to hear what you guys think of the premise.